From time to time, we all experience embarrassing moments that make us want to curl up in a ball and give up. However, I can guarantee you that your most shameful moment is nothing compared to the cringeworthy things we're about to explore in this video. See, today, we're going to check out some folks who had a hilariously bad day, wincing at emotional outbursts, occupational errors, and expensive malfunctions, as we take a look at some footage of people who are absolutely dying inside. Everyone knows that I have a way with the ladies, but becoming this smooth takes a lot of practice, and we all have to start somewhere. This kid's first attempt at flirting was captured on film as he tried to attract a girl by dancing at her during a party. As this guy tried to pop, lock, and roll his way to love via a staring contest, the poor girl just didn't seem to be feeling it. Still, they aren't the only couple experiencing tensions. The Heart Attack Grill is a restaurant in Las Vegas with a strange selling point. If you weigh over 350 pounds, you eat for free. To verify patrons' claim to a free meal, this controversial restaurant has a giant scale by the entrance, so patrons can weigh themselves before they enter. And this guy used it to pull a cruel prank on his wife, by making her believe she'd put on a ton of weight. Dang. When his wife inevitably figured out the truth off-camera moments later, she probably dragged her husband straight to one of the Vegas wedding chapels to refund their marriage. Let's leave Vegas now by moving on to a performance that occurred at a child's birthday party. Oof. This birthday performer gave the children an unexpected present when he showed them what it would look like if Princess Elsa got the old French Revolution haircut. Yeah, it's never easy for a kid to have to realize that that's not really a Disney princess, it's just some dude. Like this guy who watched his career go up in flames. Time is a cruel mistress. One moment you're a young janitor with a mop in your hand and the wind in your ponytail, and the next, you're just an old man in a clean mall watching your job get stolen by a glorified robot vacuum cleaner. As this janitor watched an Avidbot Neo floor scrubber take his career, the only thing left for him to clean was his tears. But he isn't the first person who's been attacked by technology.
Use your teeth.
Lana, I think I'm having stroke. Lana, I think I'm having stroke!
It seems some members of the older generation still aren't familiar with this newfangled camera filter technology. So when this TikTok filter rearranged this woman's face, she was terrified. In her defense, this type of prank works on some kids, too.
Okay. Oh my god, Natalie, it's stuck. What? His eye is stuck. Mama can fix him. Ready? Open. Oh, see? No, it's not fixed!
Man, that kid's definitely gonna need some therapy, but he might have to wait a while. There's a long queue of disturbed children leading up to the therapist's office, including this unfortunate soul. Aw, she really tried to play it tough, but that interactive Halloween decoration got her with the old skull-in-the-bag trick. Classic. At least she walked it off without a major meltdown, unlike this kid. When this kid went to see Disney on Ice in 2022, it turned into a waking nightmare. A far stretch from the Lion King's joyous promises of no worries for the rest of your days, this Pumbaa gave the kid a lot to worry about after skating right up to his face. Despite the horrifying encounter, that kid will also have to wait for the therapist, who's all booked up for a group session with these 3 siblings.
Look at this one. Look at this one. Quick. Far, go and help the boys. They don't know what they're doing. Go on, quick. Help them. Go on over and help them.
Oof, that's a little far for a prank, isn't it? After years of cleaning dirty diapers and dealing with screaming tantrums, a TikToker called M. Barrett decided to get some revenge on their kids in 2021 with a jump scare maze game. As much as the parents enjoyed a good laugh at the results, I think the joke's really on them. After all, when kids inevitably have nightmares about scary mazes and wake up screaming, it probably won't seem so funny anymore. Those kids probably lost a lot of trust in their old-timers after that incident, but they aren't the only children who've been betrayed by their parents. Look at the betrayal in his eyes. War is hell, and this young private found it out the hard way thanks to his own father. Luckily, Nerf guns don't do much damage, and this soldier survived the battle unscathed. However, this next person appears to have been hit by a projectile that packed more of a punch. Or at least, he pretended to have been hit to play the prank on an unsuspecting golfer who hit his ball into the yard.
Jason! Wait for him to pull out first. And then run out. Oh, there he is.
Dad humor at its absolute finest. Credit to Jason Suda, the dad in question, who has a strained relationship with golf because his home backs onto a course, and golfers constantly hit errant balls into his backyard. Getting a small piece of well-deserved vengeance, Jason ruined the golfer's day with the perfect prank. But not all poorly aimed deliveries work out so well. Well, that's one way to hide a package from porch pirates. This Amazon driver was attacked by an insect while dropping off a package, resulting in a very special delivery. When the homeowner watched her security footage back, she forgave the driver for bugging out. But this next delivery man made a mistake that's a bit less forgivable.
Bro, don't we wait and set together, bro?
Remember, kids, there's no I in team, but there's 2 in idiot. Despite the snowy conditions, this delivery driver wasn't able to keep his cool while delivering a $4,200 refrigerator in Tallmadge, Ohio. Unfortunately, he isn't the only worker who carried more than he could handle. Oh my dude, that's rough. It's a shame that guy's at work, because after that blunder he could sure use a drink. He put the pub in public shame, but hey, he only has himself to blame, and at least somebody else didn't spill his drinks. Watching a soccer game sober sounds awful, but this fella's gonna have to sit through the rest of this Uxbridge FC match without his beer after that misplaced header. Now, outside embarrassment is bad enough, but this next teenager had his lowest moment in the comfort of his own home. Talk about a fire gaming setup. When a streamer called Fast Action 99 destroyed his first build, he later discovered that the smoke was caused by 2 faulty cables, and once they were replaced, the PC was completely fine. Whew! I'm glad that Fast Action didn't destroy his most prized possession. That would be terrible. Oh, what's this? Well, that's one way to ruin a road trip. This unfortunate driver just wanted to feel the wind in his hair, but he felt nothing but fear as the roof of his convertible Lotus flew into the sky after the latching mechanism malfunctioned. The roof was totaled, but luckily it didn't hit any other cars or cause any harm. Unfortunately, this driver wasn't so lucky.
Bro. Look at this bloke. No way. What are you doing, bro? Can't park there, bro.
Because you see those 2 panels are too close together.
Yeah.
When I was pressing the brake, it just pressed the thingy and then just...
Yeah, you need to press easy, man.
Oh no, honey.
Yikes. This fella crashed a $1 million Lamborghini Aventador into another while working as a valet at the Crown Casino in Perth, Australia. Luckily, the cars were both owned by a billionaire called Lawrence Escalante, so he can probably afford to repair them. Still, crashing a $1 million supercar is a pretty big mishap for a valet, so it's likely he was fired for the mistake. Hey, it could be worse. He could have been grounded, like this next kid inevitably was.
Oh, what happened? What happened?
You calling your mommy?
Fuck the jet ski up. So what happens? Down. Look at this. Oh. Oh, yeah, that ain't good. Daddy's probably gonna be pretty mad at that one. Damn. Maybe you should around and no way spraying people. Oh, right in the dock.
Wow, karma works quickly, and I bet that brat's parents weren't happy when they saw their kid not only using their jet ski recklessly, but somehow breaking it too. Jet skis cost between $5,000 to $20,000, so replacing the damaged parts of it is going to take a whole lot of pocket money. Of course, the teenager deserves it for thoughtlessly splashing other people, although this next racer crashed and burned after going too slowly. And for my next trick, I'll turn gold into silver right before your eyes. In 2021, a Mateo Bustos decided to prematurely showboat his way over the finish line of a triathlon in Spain. Mateo spent months training, but his showboating cost him the race. And in the future, I'm sure he'll save his celebrations until after he's won, like these athletes. Now, for me, dancing in a room full of excited Olympians would be a dream come true. But when Argentina's field hockey team made it to the final of the 2020 Olympics and dragged one of the stadium's janitors into their celebration, the introverted cleaner died inside. In the janitor's defense, the athletes just finished a game, and it's hard to have fun when you can smell someone's body odor, even if it is your own. I heard Coachella stunk this year, but I didn't take it literally. Unfortunately, this girl forgot to pack deodorant when she went to Coachella, and this clip was part of the festival's official live stream, so her "B-oh no" moment was broadcast to the entire world. Well, that's pretty embarrassing, but at least the girl was just an audience member and she wasn't on stage during her uncomfortable moment. When this kid's school performance was interrupted by a balloon chain, he tried everything he could to get the annoying thing away from his face, but static forces were against him, leading to a hilarious showdown where ultimately the balloon won. The kid was stuck in a crummy position for the rest of the concert, but at least he wasn't literally glued to the spot like this guy. Talk about a sticky situation. This tradesman poured a powerful adhesive over some wooden floorboards so he could lay down some vinyl flooring. However, when he tried to leave the room, his shoes and socks got stuck to the glue. Man, I'm glad the video cuts out as he places his bare feet on the floor. I don't want to see how he tore himself out of that situation. Everybody has bad days, and when you've crashed a jet ski or lost a boxing match to a balloon, there's nothing better than treating yourself to a pizza. But sometimes, bad days just keep getting worse. Mamma mia. If a gust of wind swept my pizza away, I might take it as a sign from the universe to eat some vegetables. However, this guy refused to bow to Mother Nature by sitting on the sidewalk and chowing down on his pizza topped with pepperoni, mushrooms, and gravel. Delicious. Dropping your dinner before you get a chance to eat it is devastating. But this next dish was destroyed before it even made it out of the kitchen. In 2021, Jessica Bryan's friends ruined her baking by pulling a prank that left her caked in flour. Now, the fact that she looks directly in the camera makes me think this is probably staged, but it's no more of a performance than this next trick played on a street performer asking for money. talk about getting a taste of your own medicine. After performing a short act, this mime from El Salvador was paid with invisible money, which may seem unfair, but he's a mime. He can simply use that mime money to buy some mime food, though tragically, it isn't very filling. His unsuccessful act left him penniless, but he isn't the only failed entertainer out there. My mom always told me to dance like nobody's watching, but I don't think that this is what she had in mind. This aspiring TikToker went viral against her will, as a woman recorded her dancing in her car. The moment was pretty embarrassing, and incredibly, it was filmed from multiple angles. Even the dog looks ashamed of the teenager's dance, and he isn't the only pup who's been caught in an awkward situation.
Unbelievable. No. What are you doing? So now I can't even put stuff up there? I'm looking right at you.
Dogs are supposed to be man's best friend, but this pilfering pooch betrayed his owner after he tried to steal their leftover food. You can see the internal battle in the dog's brain.
Oh, I feel so guilty, but so much food.
The furry criminal was caught red-pawed. But there are worse would-be thieves deserving to be shamed online, like this valet who helped himself to chewing gum in a client's car before realizing the car had cameras installed.
Hey, which one I'm gonna go? Oh, I'm gonna take one, Papa.
I'm not surprised the valet wants to steal some minty gum, because I'm sure his breath reeks of crime. Stealing while working is pretty immoral, but it could be worse. He could have been caught on camera stealing something far more valuable than gum. Looking a little guilty there, bud. In 2023, a British paramedic decided to take 60 pounds in cash from the home of an old woman who passed away shortly beforehand. Thankfully, the woman had security cameras in her home, and Mark died inside as he realized he was being recorded, forcing him to awkwardly put the money back. Luckily, this embarrassment wasn't his only punishment, and the video also allowed the police to catch Mark, sentencing him with a $900 fine and 120 hours of unpaid work, as well as losing his job. Man, watching a paramedic do something so immoral is pretty disheartening. But luckily, most healthcare workers take their jobs more seriously, and some of them work to the point of exhaustion. After working a long shift, one nurse showed he could use a rest day when he absent-mindedly attempted to use his work key card to get into his own home. Aw, the look of shame. And he isn't the only one. Both those nurses have clearly spent too much time using their keycards in their respective hospitals, and they deserve some sleep. Looking after patients is tiring work, and sometimes attempting to save a life can be terrifying.
I'm saving you! Let me save you! Thank you.
Some people are so ungrateful. Tara Wigley tried to channel her inner lifeguard by saving this squirrel from a kiddie pool, but all she came away with was a newfound fear of rodents. Tara's screams are hilarious, but in her defense, an angry animal is a pretty valid thing to be scared of, especially when compared to these guys, who are screaming at something that doesn't even exist. Damn, I have no idea what game they're playing, but something tells me it isn't Cooking Mama. When some people play virtual reality horror games, they clearly find them far too realistic. This group of friends responded to this zombie shooter by screaming, whereas this next kid had a very different reaction.
His hair! His hair! Oh God! Oh God! Oh God! You see that, you were in?
We can't see that, bud.
Wow, that game just reset that kid to his factory settings. He was so scared he forgot how to speak English and reverted to baby talk. I think if he wants to play horror games, he needs to be less timid, like this aggressive little terror. Well, doesn't he seem delightful? Remind me to never have kids. As this brat tried to blow out his brother's birthday candles, his dad vanquished the little monster like a brave knight, wielding a paper shield and blocking his attacks, despite the inevitable ensuing temper tantrum. I wonder if the birthday boy wished for a better brother, perhaps a more positive one, like this.
Coconut juice. You want to try it?
Yeah.
Do you like it? Is it good? Do you want more?
No, thank you.
Something tells me he didn't like it. Lying to protect his mom's feelings, very sweet. But sometimes pretending to enjoy mom's cooking takes some even more committed acting to not hurt her feelings, as this girl learned the hard way.
How is it?
Good.
It looks like you're enjoying yourself. Oh, yeah, that looks like you're enjoying. Okay, you okay? You
I'm okay.
Nothing like a home-cooked meal to almost make you throw up. When Piper Wilkins ate some of her mom's cooking in 2017, she pretended she liked it, but unfortunately her gagging gave the game away. As the girl struggled to keep her mom's spaghetti down, it's safe to assume that her knees were weak and her arms were heavy, and in my opinion, she's lucky that there isn't vomit on her sweater already. Both of those kids lied to protect their parents' feelings, but most children aren't so considerate, and this next girl refused to even look at her dad after he shaved his beard.
You look like you look like
I can't even look at you.
She's a teenage. Oh my God, you're scaring her.
Weird. My ex-girlfriend reacted the same way when I shaved my beard. Still, some people can't pull off the clean-shaven look as well as me. And this kid didn't even recognize her dad without his facial hair. Apparently, she couldn't look at him without crying for 2 whole days, which is pretty brutal. but some cases of mistaken identity can be far more flattering. Back in 2022, a drag queen and Lady Gaga impersonator called Penelope Jean found this out firsthand after one of Gaga's security guards mistook her for the famous singer.
E as pessoas achando que Penélope é Lady Gaga. Então a gritaria inteiro. A gritaria e
When Penelope Jean went to one of Lady Gaga's shows in Miami, a security guard mistook her for the pop star and started escorting her through the crowd, until she turned around and showed him her poker face. In the guard's defense, Jean has made a career as a Lady Gaga impersonator, so his blunder is understandable. Some cases of mistaken identity can be far more embarrassing, like the moment that this woman met one of her favorite actors without realizing who he was.
It does.
It looks exactly like it.
No way. do you like that show?
I do.
Who's your favorite character? Who's your favorite character?
Okay, Ragnar, which is his dad.
What was he? You didn't like him?
Well, I did like him, but it's like it's the OG versus his son. And
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm Alexander. I played Beer Nice. And I just do you mind? I had to take a video because this is so good.
That's incredible.
It's amazing. What's your name?
Lauren.
Lauren?
Yeah.
That's my wife's name.
Oh,
It's great.
cool. I'm gonna die.
They say you should never meet your heroes, and this embarrassing video shows us why. See, when Lauren sang meant the actor Alexander Ludwig, she told him that he looked just like a character in her favorite show, Vikings. Lauren was pretty embarrassed when Alexander revealed that he actually played that character, but to be fair, Alexander plays a bloodthirsty warrior in Vikings. So when she met this kind Canadian in a baseball cap, Lauren didn't immediately link him to the character. Hair and makeup can really alter a person's appearance, but the change is temporary unless you use the wrong products. I guess you can't spell face paint without pain. In 2021, this TikToker covered her face with bright purple makeup to create a video before discovering that she couldn't wash it off. It isn't clear how long it took her to remove the paint, but I can confirm she appears largely purple-free in her latest TikToks. Still, she isn't the only TikToker who gave herself a mistakeover.
Y'all, it is that official time where it's like time to take this off. But stuff, I guess, like this headdress. Mother of Mary, please don't let this hurt.
And to think, tarring and feathering used to be a punishment. Now, TikTokers are willing to do it to themselves. This bird-human hybrid is Rebel 911, a makeup artist who uses prosthetics to transform herself into animals and mythical creatures. And while she loves putting makeup on, removing the layers of glue, prosthetics, and feathers is a horrible experience. And she can't help but grimace as she pulls the sticky feathers off. It could always be worse though, at least her face wasn't covered with wax.
Is hard as a rock, so I'm gonna start taking her off. This could be a meme, like, or, you know, I don't know. Whew. Nice. Now, I'm crying a little bit, but you can see my pain, right?
I don't know what she's whining about. I wax my face every day. Still, back in 2021, a TikToker called Alexis found herself in a sticky situation when she started absent-mindedly painting her face with melted wax while listening to a podcast. Unfortunately, once her face was coated, she discovered that peeling it off was painful, and after spending several minutes ripping out her tiny facial hairs, she was rewarded with a mold of her face that perfectly captured her pained expression. Alexis saw the funny side of her painful predicament. However, this next scary situation was no laughing matter.
Do not touch the king's lifeguard!
With their grey weather and grey food, the UK can be a pretty gloomy place. So it's no surprise that back in 2023, 2 tourists had their own taste of the great British friendliness after snapping a photo with a member of the King's Guard. The battle-hardened soldiers making up their ranks are, obviously, tasked with protecting the king. So, interfering with their duties or touching them is a big no-no. Still, surprising to see that a soldier's most brutal weapon is obliterating people with words. That's a true dying inside expression if I ever saw one. But let's take a quick look back at some of the best of this video, shall we? Who do you think wins the award for most visible internal anguish out of all those faces of pain? Cast your ultimate dying inside votes in the comments below. Editor, roll the outro, please. Now, after all that cringe, I don't think I can go on, so let's wrap up. But while you're down in the comments, let me know, what's the most embarrassing thing that's happened to you? I can't wait to read your stories. Is that messed up? Well, either way, thanks for tuning in, and peace out.